ignore me the other day about the Pepsi Max Cherry.
I didn't know. I would never ignore you, my friend. In what way?
I added you on Twitter about.
I hate missing people. I hate missing my mates on Twitter. I know that sounds really conceited, like Mr. Big Time, but I do it all the time. Like I miss my own dad sometimes. What did you have me? I need to get. Is there some sort of list system? Someone was telling me.
Because I was telling you about why I preferred Rubicon to Pepsi Max Cherry.
Oh, did I not reply to that? I saw that.
You just ignored it.
No,
in spite.
I thought I
respond.
Did I not? I apologise because I thought I've got the GIF that I have ready for it.
Cool.
Because I was going to use my favourite. Why can I? Rubicon, man. You know, the only thing I can see you tweeting about Rubicon is some reference. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, you put right. Hang on a minute. Oh, I've not even liked. I've got distracted. Terrible. No, that is terrible. Hang on a minute. Right, because I've got the exact GIF. I know exactly what I was going to do, and you'll probably know it as well. It's my favourite one for this occasion. There you go. I've just sent it you.
There we go.
Yeah, from The Office.
Hang on. There it is. You've moved on from the Wire.
Well, that's my favourite one when someone says something where it's like a dad joke or something that is slightly slanderous towards myself or things that I hold very dearly. In this case, Pepsi Max Cherry. Then I'll send them that. In fact, I'll bring it up now so people can see. Because it's that one. There you go. Can you see that? That's what he gets for the absolute drivel that is claiming Rubicon is in the same league as Pepsi. To be fair, Rubicon is nice. I will give you that. It is. I could drink Rubicon all day, but anyone who knows me knows me.
Has anyone ever done the "What are you doing here?" and not in a racist way towards you?
I wish they would, but no, they haven't. But just give it time.
Sidney Poitier.
Yeah, he's not my favourite actor. That would be the great Sidney Poitier. All we do in The Office, or all I do, is me and Adam Patterson, who just do office jokes. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, if I had it my way, the place would be full of them and stuff like that. And then, like, most people, like, what the fuck are you two on about? But yeah, if you've not watched the UK Office, make sure you check it out. Actually, the US Office is good as well. I think it's one of those few shows where they moved it over to America and it still works.
Yeah, but there's too many of them. That's the thing in
the US Office.
Yeah, drags it out a bit.
It does go on a little bit, but the first series is probably the weakest because in the first series they've made Michael Scott like quite slimy and a bit sort of Brentish, and in the second series onwards, he's more likable, and I think that's what makes it a lot better. But I digress. I'll do a quick intro. That's James Young. That's Youngie. I'm Motty. We've no Scotty today, but he will be back soon. Don't worry. He's just off for a few days. So we wish him well, and we'll see him soon. But in the meantime, he's letting the lunatics run the asylum. So me and James are going to chat a little bit about what's going down in the ghetto, which is Northern Independence Party. Is that what's happening, James?
Why'd you do this bit before you start? Is it some sort of like avant-garde podcast way of introducing the show?
No, it's not like a sort of, a planned thing of like, we'll chat and then we just basically, what happens with me and Scotty and what happens with me and you is we just start talking normally like, how's it going? Get onto a few things and then think, we better do an intro. And we've just kept that in rather than...
The weather's good. Did you have a nice weekend?
That sort of... but better.
How are you? I don't want to know. Just say you're all right so we can move on the conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't have the skill to actually do that properly. So we're going to have this awkward bit at the start where I go, yes, I'm really well. Thank you for having me. As if I'm sort of being held hostage.
Yeah. And then at the end, we can have some papers to shuffle like we've just finished. And then we can have a little chat as the credits roll. That sort of thing. And you can laugh and you can go, So yeah, I don't know, it's just something we did and we just carried on doing it. And me and you are going to carry on doing it because we're not changing the format. Yeah.
Or the name of the channel.
Well, the name of the channel. We will call it Scotty, Motty, and Youngie soon. Don't worry. Like Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
You got to change the profile picture then, and that's too much effort. So
it's all right. I'm a whiz at Photoshop, or an old man who is.
Are you?
Yeah. I know someone who's pretty good at it, so I'll see if they'll do it for us. It would take 2 minutes.
Are you an After Effects man or Premiere Pro?
I'm Premiere Pro, man. Yeah, all about the Premiere Pro. I'm very basic. Are you Final Cut?
Only because that was the only pirated software that I could get at the time.
Right.
Allegedly.
Okay. Yeah, you see, I used to do. I use iMovie on my phone, and I used to use iMovie quite a lot when I used to make memes and stuff. And then I had to get on Premiere Pro just because of work and that. And you need to get with the times, don't you? And it's a lot better. But most of the stuff I do is just nonsense. It's just for fucking about. It's not for work. Just occasionally I'll do stuff that I do need to do for work, like edit something. So that's the reason I've got Premiere Pro, because it's just a lot easier.
Audition's a lot better than Audacity. If anyone's wondering, that is the elite level audio editing.
I used to use Audition when we used to do. I used to do this thing. We used to go into schools and colleges on the Keir 103 bus, the radio bus, and try and talk to them about radio and apprenticeships and stuff like that. And then I'd have to package it up into like little voxes and stuff. And we used to do adverts with them as well. We used to have to get them to write and record an advert for radio. Obviously, it didn't go on the air. It was just for us. But yeah, it was one of those where I had to sort of edit all this stuff together. And I had to do it that quickly because we had to like record it in the day and then sort of at the end of the afternoon, edit them all and then have the adverts ready so they could listen back to it. So yeah, I was a big Audition fan. That helped me.
Well, the other place you can find me, of course, is the Bro Radio award-nominated Saturday Sports Show, which does go out as a podcast every week, which is listened by the grand total of 3 people, if we're lucky, which I edit with Audition myself. So,
tell me a little bit about your radio show. Come on,
I do 2. So
right.
I do one on the Saturday, which is the main Saturday sports show, which is the one that was nominated for an award. 3 till 6 every Saturday with Luke, who's now Twitter famous. He's
smashed it, mate. I've never got them numbers, mate. I am well gel, as the kids say.
And he had less followers than me up to one point the other day.
Like, I always look at that and go, yeah, like he's got like he's in the hundreds with his followers, and he's hit 100 grand likes on a tweet. That is absolutely phenomenal. Like that's unreal. Like, well done to him.
Yeah, he's done a couple of. He did another one the other week about. There was a clip of Soccer AM that he managed to put out that did really well as well, which is bizarre. But I do that with him every Saturday, and then I do another show on a Monday for now with a guy called Ben, who, well, you might have heard the famous classy obituary that we did to Mr. Doug Mountjoy and his family. That I'm sure we did.
I don't know if you were here. I don't know if we discussed this on here, but I've definitely spoken about it. Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, just explain what you're on about. Explain what happened.
In the nicest, well, I don't know. I don't know how to say this in the sort
just
of
be honest.
Possible.
You know this podcast is all about honesty. Go on.
There was a confusion in what we were going to talk about, and the guy that was presenting the show with me decided to sing. We had 2 snooker stories. One was about like it was a light-hearted snooker story. The other was about someone that had died, and just as I was about to talk about the person that had died, my producer decided to start singing Snooky Loopy just as I was about to kick in, which meant that
the Chaz and Dave classic, eh? Do you know what I mean? Have you heard it? Have you heard that song before?
I have heard it before.
Yeah.
Which is what the laughter was afterwards, as I sort of laughed my way through an obituary to Mr. Doug Mountjoy, which was a classy touch.
Listen, it happens to everyone in radio. There's always something that happens like that, whether it's giggling through an obituary, getting the name of someone wrong. I remember when I was working in news, and Roger Moore died, and one of the newsreaders said it was Sean Connery. And that went out on air for the news bulletin. And then it was like, I think the presenter had to do a disclaimer and say, like, actually, Sean Connery is still alive. It's actually Roger Moore that's died. Apologies. So yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, but I think personally, I've spectacularly fucked up in the radio. I mean, the first ever show that I did by myself, I got chucked in right at the deep end, so I was covering for someone else, and my headphones were turned down, so I couldn't hear myself in my headphones. So the first link that I did was basically me saying, "Can you hear me? Hello," for about a minute. It's great.
Hello, can you hear me?
I think
can you hear me now?
That. I think I sent that to you.
So this is the thing. You know, it's all you knew. It's all about finding your feet, getting comfortable. Things happen. Like I know people who've done things like I remember once one of the newsreaders called David Cameron a pompous twat during a bulletin. I think she was referencing something and she accidentally said it. What else was there? Oh, there's another one. Do you know what they always used to tell me? You know Dan Walker off the BBC?
Yeah.
He used to work at Q103 before I was there. And I remember once one of the newsreaders said to him, "Can you write me like a lead, just a line? You know, like you introduce, you say like, coming up, we've got, you know, there's a story about a fire in Staley Bridge. But first, and because he was always, apparently he was a bit of a joker, and I think he wrote, coming up, we'll be hearing from the world's first talking bear." And this newsreader read it out on air. It's like, what am I on about? So it happens. I remember once one of the newsreaders, just as she was getting halfway through a bulletin, a screen died. So she didn't have any, she couldn't read a screen. And like they always used to say, always take it on a piece of paper, but she didn't. She hadn't. So she just fucking made up some stories.
I remember, well, the guy does the show with me on a Monday. He does Drive as well before. And the first show that he did doing Drive, the whole playout system crashed. So he had to basically present the show based off the clock in the studio because the whole thing had gone on the side of the screen. So he was having to play adverts and back time his entire show off the clock. And the emergency CD was really scratched as well and barely played.
Do you know what? That's impressive, man. Because do you know what always amazes me about some DJs or presenters is like when they have to ad lib for like 30 seconds. Like I was listening to a radio station in Manchester not long ago. I won't name it, but basically something where it started with an X and it ended in an S. And the summit had happened, and they were like, "Oh, it's," and like the producer basically said, "You know, it's going to take a minute. Just have a, you know, you've got a minute until this is sorted." And the presenter was like a rabbit in headlights. It was like, and I think, you fucking hell, man, you paid to talk for a living. It's only a minute. Do you know what I mean? You can literally look out the fucking window.
Once,
that's what I mean.
When another guy used to host the main sports show on a Saturday, when we were doing it from home, his Wi-Fi cut out, and I had to basically fill as I was logging into the playout system and to play a record at the same time. But I didn't know what was going on with his side of things because he couldn't say anything because his Wi-Fi had gone down. So I was just speaking, a pause in to wait for him to come back, and he wasn't coming back in, and it was it was getting further and further. So I had to basically open the playout system on my laptop with one screen, log in while still speaking, and then play a record. It took about 20 minutes total.
See, that is great training, practice. Do you know what I mean? Experience, whatever you want to call it. That is the way to learn, because you'll find that once you get sort of, you know, up the ladder, which I've no doubt you will, that you don't have to go through that sort of thing. But if anything does go wrong, you'll be well used to it because you're like, I've been here before when I was a kid and that. So yeah, I think some presenters don't have that.
Any like warnings?
What from the powers that be at my I was always quite different and protected in the sense that because I did news, I didn't do anything. I only did in my entire sort of 9 years, whatever it was, of reporting, about 3 live broadcasts, like in my life. One was the Olympic parade. I think I can't remember, but there was a couple of others as well. I can't remember them, But because what happened with news was it was always pre-recorded. So even if you did it as live, it wasn't. It was pre-recorded. You know, if you were at the scene somewhere or wherever, you know, it wasn't right. Well, we're going live. Even if they said they were, they weren't. Do you know what I mean? It would just be a pre-recorded thing. So there was never really any dramas. I didn't really do anything where it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, do you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe you've done that or whatever. There was a couple of times, like, I remember once when I was hungover, I went to an interview. I went to a press conference without my memory card for me microphone, so I couldn't record anything. Yeah, just daft shit like that. But by and large, I never really had any dramas, to be honest with you. Like, I got myself in like a few situations when I was reporting, but in terms of like getting myself in trouble or doing things I shouldn't have done or getting told off, no, it was I was quite lucky because, like I say, with it not being live, you've got that safety net. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it'd be like you'd have to get your bulletin recorded just in time for the news and stuff. But by and large, the worst thing that ever happened to me in radio was, and it was nothing. It wasn't my fault. It was a presenter's fault. I've just been playing football with him actually, but I won't name him. But we did this appeal. This woman had gone missing, not far from where I live now. Actually, she's gone missing. So we did this appeal, and I spoke to her husband, and they were going out looking for her. She'd been missing. Like she'd last been spotted near these woods near their house. So they were searching, and he was like, I remember he did this appeal, just want you to come home. I'm worried about her. I'm worried she's like banged her head and, he's unconscious somewhere. I mean, really heart-wrenching stuff, you know what I mean? This is like this middle-aged man, and he's just sort of pouring his heart out. So we do the appeal, and this is a bit sad story, I'm not going to lie to you. And then the appeal goes out. It was on I think it was the Saturday morning, because he used to work weekends. Saturday morning, the appeal goes out, and I said to him, stay in touch, let me know any developments, Anyway, that night I messaged him and I said, has there been any updates? And unfortunately, she passed away and he'd found a body. And he messaged me back and he said, they found a body. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Thoughts with you and your family. If there's anything at all I can do, just let me know. That sort of thing. And he was a nice guy and he was like, appreciate that sort of thing. I walk in work the next day into the office where we're obviously playing the radio. We have our channel on our radio. And the first thing I hear is the news, and it's the appeal for him. Because someone's played the appeal from yesterday on the news. So it's him saying we just wanted to come home, and obviously, the lady's already gone. And I'm like, just stood there in the middle of the office, like, what the fuck am I listening to here? Like, sort of frozen. I think there's nothing I can do. I can't, like, even if I ran down to the studio and told the DJ to turn it off. By the time I get there, it'd be over. Then my phone obviously starts ringing. I'm like, oh shit. Thankfully, the lad hadn't heard it. It was a woman had set up the interview, like a family friend. She'd reached out and said, can you do something with this appeal? So I'd gone to a pub and met the guy and all these volunteers and friends. So she rang me and she was like, I've just been listening to Keir Starmer in the car. I've just heard that, and I'm like, I'm so fucking sorry. I don't know how that's happened. Like, forgive me sort of thing. And she was like, oh, it's one of those things. But I was just like, I spoke to Deezer and I was like, mate, what the fuck is going on? And he was like, oh shit, it was the wrong one or whatever. I was like, no fucking shit, it was the wrong one. Do you know what I mean? That was literally like the most mortified I've ever been, because I was like, can you imagine? Do you know what I mean? If he hears that, he's gonna fucking.
Have I told you about Chairgate before?
Chairgate? No, what's Chairgate?
Right, this is terrible, right, and we got a massive bollocking for this, because what happened was, before COVID, because our studio used to be in like a community centre. It still is in a community centre, but it's not many things on. So there's like our studio, which is in like a sort of goldfish bowl, and you got like a cafe bit, sort of a gym bit downstairs. It's because it's like community radio. It's in like this sort of YMCA hub, and there was this cafe bit outside the sort of studio where we'd look over. And there was a guy, and he was sat on a chair, and he managed to get his arse stuck in like the back end of the chair, and he couldn't get out of it. And we decided to take it upon ourselves to basically take the piss out of him on air for about half an hour instead of trying to help him. And basically, and our boss, she called us a disgrace.
Really?
Yeah.
was
It's
your
terrible.
boss like?
It is terrible.
Right, but your boss was really not happy.
No, wasn't happy.
I remember once we had this guy, Michael Cope, his name was. I'll never forget him, and he was wanted for murder. And he rang up the station. He was wanted. He was missing. Like he was wanted. He'd gone to ground, and there was a reward for him. And he rang up the station and was like talking to. He got put through to the presenter, not live on air, but like got put through, and was like, "Yeah, you've been chatting shit about me on air and all this, like fucking, I'm not even guilty." And the presenter didn't know who he was. And you could tell because the presenter's like, "Oh right, okay. So what's your name?" He's like, "You fucking what? You know my name is." And he's like, "You can just take it again." And he's like, "It's Michael Cole." And I'm like, you can hear the presenter. And I listened to the call because we had to send it to the police. And the presenter's like, obviously tapping on keyboard. You can hear him probably googling this. Like, and he's like, "Want you to come and meet me, so I can give my side of the story." And he's like, "Right, okay, yeah." So he obviously told us in news, and we were like, "Well, we can't. We're not allowed to go meet." I wanted to. Because there was a 10k reward as well. I thought, you know what, we'll go down, we'll fucking meet him, and we'll get him next and get some money. But we weren't allowed. We had to just hand it over to the police because obviously he's fucking. In the end, I think they caught him about a day later anyway because fucking they found him hiding down the canal or something stupid.
But mainly the music policy as well that our boss got annoyed at because it's there's obviously it's like every station there's a main rotation playlist, an A list, a B list, etc. And basically lock songs in because we changed them out because it'd be like Sam Smith or George Ezra or whatever. And I remember we did one show and we basically took out every single song in the log for like whatever. And he used to message us via like Facebook Messenger. And it'd appear like on my phone would sort of light up and it'd be like, "This song is not in main rotation." 3 minutes later, this one isn't either.
Did I tell you about the time? Did I tell you about the one? I told you, didn't what Chris Evans did. I told you that. Yeah. Because there was like what happened basically with radio is it changed a lot. So like back in the day, you could get away with fucking murders, mate. All sorts was going on. I mean, you know what went on with like James Stanich and Steve Penke, even people like that.
You had people like John Holmes as well at XFM who I think he got fined like 75 grand or something stupid for I can't remember. He did like a massive stunt on his breakfast show and he got fined massively for it.
Yeah, there was another guy who what was his name? We used to have this thing on us. No, it was a new. He became.
Pete Price.
No, it was. Do you know what? What was that show where you had like the guy who? It was all these different guys playing practical jokes, and there was like the guy who was painted as a devil.
Oh, would you like a bomb? Was that on there?
It might, yeah. And there was a guy Nev, the guy Nev that used to go into shops and shout, "Everyone down on the floor now," and all that.
Yeah, Balls of Steel.
Balls of Steel, right?
Yeah.
So this guy off there,
Mark Dolan.
No, I'll tell you his name.
Alex Zane.
His name was Tim, right? I'm trying to find it. Tim Shaw, that was it, right? And he came because on the weekend we were like networked, so we were national. It wasn't just Manchester, and he got a job with us for a little while, and he was fucking off his head, right? He was just doing all sorts of crazy shit because like his whole shtick was, "I don't give a shit. I'm fucking crazy." Like he'd been on Balls of Steel doing things on that, and he came and he did this radio show, and he'd do stuff like one day he found some homeless guy outside, brought him into the studio, right, and then fucking put him in the studio like with the mics on, and Tim Shaw had like a whole crew of him, like he'd have like the new like he'd have like someone who used to play the fucking bongos or something, someone who like. You know, just a dead loud person, or do you know what I mean? A drunk woman.
The zoo format, as it's referred to.
Yeah, it was just he brought this whole firm, and he'd go in the studio, and it'd just be chaos. And I'm not being funny. I'm not knocking the guy because he was a nice guy to me, but it was fucking car crash radio. Do you know when you just listening? You're just like, what is going on? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You've got no point of reference half the time. And it doesn't, it's not even that funny. And again, he was a nice fella and he's got a good career, but I personally just thought this is fucking terrible. But But he brought this homeless guy in, who I don't think he knew where he was. This homeless guy was obviously on fucking drugs, and then he just left him on air. Like him and his crew just went, "We'll be back in a minute." That was like the joke, and then he fucked off, like out of the building, and like got in a car and drove off. And this guy's like in the studio on air. And it's like, and even security, like, what is this guy doing here? Where's he gone? Well, like, trying to get back here, get this guy out of the studio and fucking sort this shit out. Because it's like, he could have said anything. He could have literally said, so-and-so's a paedophile, or fucking, black people should all be shot. You know what I mean? He could have said anything. Thankfully, he didn't really say much because he was that fucking out of his head, and I think he was that shocked and scared that he was just pretty quiet. But it was fucking mental, mate. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I think he got sacked for that. I think they just said, like, they just said, like, that's too much.
There's a guy that I know, I'm not going to say his name, but there was another presenter that used to come in after his show, and he came in once, and he smelled so bad that he didn't let him come in to do the handover. He kicked him out.
Really?
He was like, no, you stink of shit, get out. And he sent him out.
Hey, when I used to work there, because I used to work the weekends at Key, there was a guy who used to do the night shift on air, the radio DJ, and he was out of his head. He was fucking high as a kite, man. I can't remember his name, but he was like a freelancer. He wasn't one of the main presenters because it was like weekends. But I used to come in and he'd be bouncing around the walls and chewing his fucking face off and like, and I'd be like, oh my God, how the fuck have you been on air all night, like in the state you're in? But he could get away with it, because he'd be like, he just sounded like he was dead giddy. But he was fucking, honestly, mate, he was twisted. And the weekends, it was mad because it was just like all the like waifs and strays were coming in and like there was no one in the office as well. The office was dead quiet. And it was just like, it was fucking crackers, and you just get people ringing up and just getting put through straight away and end up on air. Honestly, man, it was fucking mint. I used to love it though. It was such a good atmosphere.
Ian Lee did that on LBC when he used to be on there. He did a presenterless show once where he just had the callers doing the whole show, and it got cancelled after like the first 40 minutes because it just didn't. It was just chaos.
That's what I mean. Like when I was growing up, that was like the norm, wasn't it? Do you know, like even pranks and stuff, like they stopped doing pranks, didn't they, after the whole it was when baby George was born, wasn't it, the prince? Do you remember?
No.
Basically this sort of killed the fucking radio pranks. When what's her name? Kate Middleton was pregnant.
Yeah.
When she went into labour. She went into hospital into labour, and 2 Australian DJs rang the hospital, and it's a man and a woman. And the man literally found it. Everyone knew the hospital, so he's just fucking chanced his arm. Rang the hospital reception, said that he's from Buckingham Palace and he's got the Queen on the line. Can she be put through to the maternity ward? Got put through to the maternity ward, and then did the worst Queen Elizabeth impression like ever. Was like, "Hello, this is Elizabeth. I just wanted to inquire about my great granddaughter." And the nurse who answered the phone like was took in by it and was like, literally just said, "Oh yeah, she's fine. She's had lots of fluids, and we're monitoring, and baby's doing well." That was it, right? So they've obviously on the radio show in Australia going fucking mad, like, "Oh, we got through," and blah, blah, blah. But then the nurse who answered the phone ended up stopping herself, killed herself, right? So, I think, I don't know, and I'm just speculating here, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think obviously, it wasn't just that. Certain things were going on in her life, and then this was like the tipping point. But she took her own life, and then fucking that obviously some massive backlash for these 2 Australian DJs, presenters, who, to be fair, I don't think they ever expected to cause that much, hurt or whatever. But that was like fucking prank radio.
People that prank call radio stations now, they're not even funny. They're just racist most of the time. Yeah. They're not even creative in what they say. They just say offensive things.
And you could get away with a lot of shit back in the day, but you couldn't get away with now. Like Steve Pentford is a prime example. You couldn't do some of the prank calls he used to do, now, because you just get sued and fucking or people would say, you cross the line. And you used to do the one where you pretend to be Nazim Hamed and all that, and it's just shit like that. And it was just like with his orangutan, and fucking trying to get a booking, you know.
Like even Bezic has had to tone down slightly, because when he used to be on Red Rose back in the 80s, like some of the stuff that he used to say to people, there was one guy, and he was basically shouting at him down the phone that he was going to prison because he hadn't paid his car park fine, and he was properly like going into him saying like, you haven't paid your fine, you're going to prison, that's it, whatever, you haven't followed the rules, and like, you know, you'd never ever be able to do that now, but he still properly shouts at people. He's that's why I like listening to him on Radio Manchester, because he doesn't take, if anyone says anything stupid, he'll go, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Please shut up.
Was it?
Shut it. Was it? Get off.
Who was it? That was like Stanley's, that, wasn't it? Didn't James Stanley's used to do that?
Bezic was always more left wing than Stanley was.
Yeah. I remember, I can't remember what Stanley's like. There was quite a lot of controversy with Stanley's. I think there was the one where he had the guy who was suspected of murder. He had him on and started like arguing with him and accusing him of fucking all sorts. And it went on like the
Morecambe Bay one as well.
Yeah, it was the Cockle Pickers one. Yeah, I think that was what ended it. Like after that, I think he went on to like online radio, independent. You know what I mean? Like in his bedroom, like.
It's weird though, because Twitch now, there's loads of people that have gone there from comedy and other stuff that have no work in it at the minute. So there's quite a few people doing Twitch. Like Richard Herring's on there, Dom Jolly's on there. There's a few people that have joined it.
Dom Jolly. He fucking. I think he unblocked me. He blocked me on Twitter once, but he's unblocked me because he came up on my timeline. So I don't know how that happened.
Frankie Ball as well. He's another one that's blocked.
Yeah, he blocked. Do you know why he blocked me? Right?
Is it the most?
Yeah, he literally, right, he wrote an article about Fergie, right, and I fucking hate the Sun. I won't piss on it if someone set fire to it. But so I just read it because it's like Fergie and everyone was going on about it, so I thought I'll read what he's got to say. And it was shite. And it was around 2012 or something, and it was like taking the piss, but just not funny. Do you know, like, red-faced and all this, and just the cliched shit that people used to say about Fergie. And all I said was like, I don't mind people taking the piss out of Fergie if it's funny, but that article's just shite. And he just blocked me.
Free speech.
I know, and I thought, like, you're the one. Like, there was him, Lee Hurst. He's got a new account now. I think that might have been banned, but he blocked me as well because he was going on about Brexit or something. I can't remember what it was.
No, I can't stand him. He's so annoying.
He's not funny for starters, and he's like controversial, and he's one of those that's like, people won't like this what I'm about to say, but I think, we should bring back the death penalty. It's just something stupid that like no one gives a toss about, and it's like, or no one gives a toss about his opinion on it, and then he'll be like, I've upset everyone now. Look. And he'll like retweet like
right wing comedy is not funny. It's never funny at all. It's always like you get people like, I'm desperate to offend someone, and they'll say something offensive, and they go, look, I've got you, I've offended you, and it's like, no, it's not funny. You've just been like racist or homophobic normally most of the time.
Did you see the Fox News fucking comedy show they've got on there?
No, I haven't looked at that.
Oh, it's like that. It's a right wing.
Is that the one joke that they have that they say that they identify as a helicopter?
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's like, check out we're doing impressions of people on the television being offended. Oh, who's offended? I've offended you. No, you've offended me. What's his name? Gutfeld. That's it. The kid, Gutfeld on Fox News. And they did like a segment where reporting from Mars and just shit like reporting live from the surface of Mars. And it's just like, it's so bad. Like, it's awful. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, how has this happened? Do you know what I mean? But again, it's like, oh, this is going to really offend all the woke liberals. And it's like, it's worse than Mrs. Brown Boys.
Darren Grimes, do you think he's like a character that's played by someone to purposely just piss everyone off?
No, I don't think he is, because that's a good point, that. And I think that, like, when I first saw him on, how the fuck he did it, I don't know, but he popped up on, like, BBC News one day outside Parliament talking about Brexit. And he was like, obviously, he was pro-leave, very passionate. And at first I thought, right, okay, you know, he's different. Do you know what I mean? Because he's like a Geordie and he's you know, quite very young actually. He's about 22, but he looks younger. So you're not the types you usually get on the beat.
He's got the mental age of about a 7-year-old as well.
Oh mate, he's thick as mince, isn't it? Like he's another one who's proper thick, but somehow has managed to convince people he's clever. And he was always like pro, obviously leave. And then they had him on once on something like, what's the one they have on the BBC in the afternoon? Like the news
afternoon live, daily politics.
Daily politics, thank you.
Yeah.
And they were asking about Northern Ireland, and he literally said, "Oh, I don't know anything about Northern Irish politics." And I was like, "Why have you got this man on? Why is he fucking sat there?" That's like getting me on to talk about fucking, I don't know, the history of Yugoslavia from 1912 to 1918. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, I don't know anything about this subject. Right, okay, thanks for joining us. It was like, wow, how is he on here? And like, he kept popping up, and then he was like, obviously very pro-Trump, and all just, you know, like all this other just drivel. And then what's happened with him is he's sort of like, it's all gone wrong for him. Like he's run out of money, and he did a tweet that he's moving back to Newcastle, and then he was like, oh, I'm moving back to Newcastle, like it's not working out, and I've been struggling mentally and stuff, and like, because everyone hates him because he's such an inflammatory, argumentative tosspot. And I know he shouldn't do it when people say they're struggling mental health or whatever, but everyone was like, oh, good, fuck off and all that. Go back to fucking Newcastle, nice. Good riddance. Do you know what I mean? Just like, you know what I mean? Go back to your mum's house, you sad swat and all that. And it was a bit, you know, it's a bit fucking nasty, whatever. But then he's doing all that, and he's like, this is how the left reacts when, you know, it's someone from the right with mental health issues and be kind and mental health. And then when Meghan Markle said she wanted to kill herself, he was like fucking sticking the knife in straight away. Yeah. He was like, oh, she's just fucking moaning. Look at her.
And then he deletes loads of his tweets as well. I've noticed that.
Yeah, he does. He deleted loads about Trump. He was very pro-Trump. And then when the insurrection happened, he deleted a load then because he was like, he was posting in pictures of himself with like a Make America Great hat on. And then he deleted that. But he's been fucking absolutely busting his gut to try and get on GB News. Like every other tweet, because I don't follow him, but he keeps popping up on my timeline because a lot of people who don't like him quote tweet him. Like, fucking look at this dickhead again. But every other tweet I've seen of his is literally like, GB News is going to be so good. Andrew Neil's a legend. He's going to smash it on GB News. Finally, a voice for the right and all this nonsense. But I think you are desperate for a job there.
Maybe he just really fancies Kirsty Gallagher, who's taking up the breakfast role on that channel.
Well, I think, I think he's openly gay in it, Darren Grimes as well, which he often mentions. He's like, oh, the left don't know what to do with me because I'm gay, I'm working class, and I'm right wing. And I'm like, oh yes, because you know no one's ever been gay and right wing or working class and right wing. That's amazing. But Kirsty Gallagher,
like you're working against every single thing that your party stands for. You know, the Conservative Party have a strong history of standing up for sort of gay people and you know, the working classes. They love northern cities, don't they?
Oh yeah, you know they did so well for the northeast when it came to the miners, and Clause 28. They only got rid of that, didn't they, in about fucking 2004 or something stupid.
It's not as if they wanted to put certain cities into a managed decline during Thatcher's era or anything like that.
Talking of which, on the subject of sort of homophobia, did you see that Keir Starmer got himself in trouble with his visit to Jesus' house?
Yep, I did. He's like a character from the thick of it. Honestly, he's so inept and useless that he was the best person that they could have picked to replace Corbyn. Now, Corbyn is obviously, he had his flaws. I agree with most of his policies because I'm a socialist, but I thought the main flaw in him was not going hard enough on Brexit and a couple of other things as well. I thought the election itself was essentially a second referendum, and he didn't make the most of that. But compared to Starmer, he's just inept. He just doesn't stand on anything. He's not really good opposition to the government. At least with Corbyn, he knew actually what he stood for, whereas Starmer, he's just spineless.
No, he is. I couldn't agree more. And you know my involvement with the Breakthrough Party, and we have like a group chat. We had Alex Mays on here once, and we're going to get him on again. We have a few group chats going on, different parts of it, and everyone who's joining that is basically just disillusioned Labour voters who just, well, not everyone, there's others as well, but most of the people that are joining that party in the chat are just like, can't stand Starmer, doesn't stand for anything. Like you said, spineless is another word that keeps coming up. You know, he's just not made any headway. He's actually gone backwards in the polls against this government during a pandemic who've badly mismanaged it. Somehow they've come out of it better than he has, which is just fucking amazing. And I think he's the type of guy that, you know, he'd have to have a focus group to decide whether to take a piss. I mean, he's got, there's nothing about him. And even something as simple as going to a church on Easter, which is like the biggest tapping any politician can have. Do you know what I mean? It's Easter Sunday, I'm at a church. Here's a photo. They're doing great work in the community. You know, now I'm off home for my Sunday dinner. Happy days. You know what I mean? It's ticking a fucking box. And he even gets that wrong. He goes to fucking Jesus' house. You've got this history of conversion therapy for gay people, which is just draconian. And also have been in the news before because Theresa May visited them years ago and there was an uproar about it. So it's not like you wouldn't know. It's like literally that's the one church not to go to. This fucking idiot goes to it. And to make it worse, you go to it, you find out like there's a massive backlash. People going, what are you doing? Why has he gone to this? Straight away, it's like, bit of an oversight, didn't realise, I apologise. Waits fucking 2 days and then does that, which is obviously like, oh, he's obviously, you know, debated and decided whether to do it and fucking done a focus group and seen how it's going to play out. And then does the apology. But in the meantime, I think that Rachel Reeves goes on the telly and then almost tries to deny that he was there for that. And then he apologises after it. So it just makes her look like an idiot. It makes himself look like an idiot. And just to add one final thing on it, I think is it Stephen Tim, the Labour politician, today did a tweet. He's some idiot. He's voted against gay marriage and all this other stuff. He's just a fucking homophobic idiot. But he's in the Labour Party somehow. He's done a tweet today praising Jesus' house, which is just like, why have you done that? Like, are you stupid? Like, now is not the time. So yeah, with Keir Starmer and with the Labour Party,
it's just like New Labour though for you, isn't it? Is a sort of theory. It just doesn't work. I know Blair had 3 terms in office as Labour leader, which is the longest that any leader has had. But I think long term, progressively, you know, people were saying that Labour has to return more to the centre to get more votes. But then Starmer is so unpopular that I'm not sure whether the argument is correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And there's this sort of rose-tinted glasses with Blair. And it's because
like
he
was...
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because that's a good analogy. Yeah, because Blair won 3 elections, everyone thinks, well, that's the blueprint for Labour to get back into power. But you got to remember things as well. Like John Major's time had been a disaster towards the end.
Yeah.
Like he's another one who people remember fondly because he was a decent bloke, John Major. I don't think he was a bad person, but he was a fucking inept leader. His party was in chaos. There was just scandal after scandal after scandal. I think there was Black Wednesday when the economy went to shit. There was all this other stuff. He was like, you know, he just became a bit of a figure of ridicule. Blair came in with this whole New Labour and, you know, things can only get better and all the rest of it. And then everyone thinks, oh yeah, you know, if we go back to that, or Labour think if you go back to that, they'll win. And then I think as well what's happened is because Corbyn lost so heavily last time, that they look at it and they go, well, we can't go left wing now. You know what I mean? That's 2 reasons. One, because Blair did so well, and because Corbyn last time did so badly. That's an indicator that we are, like you just said, we have to go down the middle.
Corbyn, the first time around, during Theresa May's run, that 2017 election, he actually came closer than any other Labour leader did post Blair.
Yeah, and he could have won that.
Whether that was because of Corbyn's leadership or because Theresa May was so poor and people were voting because of how bad she was rather than Corbyn's policies is sort of the other counter argument that your sort of centrist, centre-left people tend to make.
It's a good point because I remember I was at the Theresa May when she called the election. That morning she called the election. That afternoon she went to Bolton. for what was it? It was a weird event. It was like a press event with some Tory supporters in it as well. So it was like in a community centre in Bolton. And the reason she went to Bolton is because Bolton, I think it was Bolton, and I might be getting this wrong, so forgive me if anyone from Bolton's watching. Let's just say for the sake of argument, it's Bolton North, which was a Labour seat, but was one of the sort of only just. And there was a feeling that it could be flipped to Tory. And she wanted to make a statement like, we're going after all these seats sort of thing, these traditional Labour seats. And the common thinking was Labour was going to get wiped out. And I was there with a few other, there was no interviews. It was just her. She gave a speech about this coalition of chaos and strong and stable leadership. And if you want, to get Brexit done and, you want a strong and stable leader to carry us through to leave the European Union, then I'm your woman. And under Jeremy Corbyn, you're just going to have this coalition of chaos between him and the SNP and all these others. And that day, everyone was like, she's going to have a fucking landslide because she was well ahead in the polls. And I remember chatting to a few reporters who were there, like Stuart Flinders from ITV and a couple of others. I think Jen Williams was there from the MEN. And when Theresa May called the election, most of the reporters had done the same thing. They'd gone to different towns. They'd gone, if you're a local reporter, you'd gone to your local town and got a reaction, voxes. Like some of the national people had gone to like certain towns that were very pro-Labour and seen what they'd said about it. And even the pro-Labour people were like, I'm not voting for Corbyn. Like, I'm voting. I can't be dealing with him. And the fucking, like, all the reporters were talking like, Tories could fucking end up with a massive majority here. Like, Labour could end up with like 50 seats or something stupid. But every single day during that campaign, it just got worse and worse by the Tories. Like there was the backtracking over the dementia tax thing.
Yeah,
she was terrible in interviews. Theresa May,
yeah,
she was just fucking shocking. Like
she was a terrible speaker as well. I remember after the I think it was Grenfell Tower under her. She was still Prime Minister when that happened, and it's just like she promised to basically get housing for everyone that was caused damages in that fire, and I think there's still some that haven't been put into proper housing yet. Still,
it's a great point because do you remember the sort of juxtaposition of there was Jeremy Corbyn, like when Grenfell happened, was down on the ground at the local community centres or wherever, where the victims' families were, hugging them and like chatting to them one to one. And Jeremy Corbyn, I've never interviewed Theresa May. I've interviewed David Cameron, but I've interviewed Jeremy Corbyn, and he's very personable. Like as a one to one, he is engaging. He comes. He's got a sort of certain air about him. Like Ed Miller, I've interviewed Ed Miliband, and he was just fucking the opposite. He's like a cyborg. But with Jeremy Corbyn, he's got that sort of humanity about him.
We did,
Do you know what I mean?
An interview for Copper 90 on Hackney Marches, which I thought no other politician would do that for a football YouTube channel on the Sunday League pitch.
Was this when Copper 90 before it went to the Dogs?
Well, I still think, to be honest, like there's obviously stuff around them, but I still think they still occasionally do the odd good documentary here and there. Derby Days, I think, is a good series.
Yeah. But didn't they get rid of the main presenters at Copper Night? Was it Poet and Views?
Two of them parted company over something controversial.
Was it old tweets towards women?
Something like that.
It was something about women's football, I think it was.
Yeah, Poet and Views did the comments below that left, and I think Tim's the other guy that was on there is left as well. But they still do the odd good thing here and there. But I think it's changed in the same. I think it's the business model's changed. I think it's more of an advertising sort of.
And it's if you look at the videos they do there as well, like they'll have videos that do 1 million views yet have 12 comments.
Yeah, but that's because they're advertising campaigns.
Right. It's just weird. Yeah. Like I don't know. I don't really go on Copper Night anymore. Mackie used to do some stuff with him. But yeah. Anyway, fair play.
Football Republic winner. That was another channel that went to the Dogs.
That was owned by the same company that owned Devils, and it's a shame because at one point that the Football Republic could have been the kickoff. It could have. Do you know what I mean? It like they were doing stuff with Hugh Jordan, they were doing stuff with Statman, they were doing stuff with Lawrence, they were doing stuff with Will Brazier, with Stephen Tries. Yeah, exactly. and I think Social Chain, bought that, and it all went tits up basically. And it's a shame because that was, that could have been something special.
I don't think the kickoff have dogs walking around their studios.
No. Yeah, I don't think they do. No, you're right. But do you know what? Just on another thing, I went down a rabbit hole the other day watching fucking YouTube videos, and Jeremy Lynch kept coming up in YouTube videos, and I didn't know who he was. I ended up down a rabbit hole watching the fucking Wembley Cup, was it, with him and his mate kicking off with Stephen Tries, and it was just the most fucking bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. But I digress anyway. Yeah, with Jeremy Corbyn, when I interviewed him, I've interviewed him a couple of times, came across as a really, can't tell a lot from someone in an interview because even fucking the worst person in the world can make himself seem okay for a few minutes. But he did seem like a decent bloke. And one thing he had that he was very good at, was reaching out to people on a human level. And, that was his sort of forte. Where Theresa May just couldn't do that, or she wasn't any good at it. And then part of the campaign is, he's like, if you're campaigning in the general election, is you go to all these different towns and these different cities and you speak to local reporters and you're trying to address the issues that affect that particular town. And it's obviously she'd been fed a script for each town, but she was that fucking robotic with it. It was like, I'm in a fishing town today. Oh, if you vote for me, I'll protect your fishing industry. And then someone would ask her a different question, okay, then, well, what about the local fucking factory shutting down?
How?
Yeah, no, that even better. Yeah, perfect, mate. How? Well, we'll
protect it.
Yeah, well, we'll do the thing. What? And I remember walking into the office once, and do you remember when she gave the was it the party conference where what's his is it
Dancing Queen ABBA?
Yeah, the one where the sign started falling down behind her.
Yeah, it was that one she had the cough as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she had the cough. That guy who does all the pranks, Lee Snelson, or whatever the fuck he's called.
He did the
giving her the P45.
Yeah, P45. That was it. Yeah.
But I walked in the office, and when I used to work at Key, you had to go up the steps. News was at the back up the steps, and I walked in, and as I came up the steps, I could see the whole news team looking at the telly like that. And I'm not lying to you, James, right? For a split second, I thought there'd been another 9/11 or something because all the news team who don't get shot that easily, and I was like, "Fuck me, what's going on? What's happening?" And it was like they're watching Theresa May's speech, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why are you all looking like some? There's been a massive disaster." And because it's been a disaster, like everything's going wrong. She can't stop coughing. The sign's falling down behind her. Someone's just tried to give her a P45. It's just a fucking mess. And it was just
reminds me of during COVID, right? I think I got given another show, and I think it was a pilot that I did, and as I was pre-recording it in the place that I was working at the time, because the main studio is downstairs and upstairs, there's an office and there's sort of a smaller studio, and as I was pre-recording it, the announcement for the first lockdown was made literally as I was pre-recording the show, and I had to pause it and went out to sort of the main office bit, and it was just chaos, really. Terrible. The worst thing. Did one show of that and never got another chance to do the Global Music Express, but I did cover for. This is the thing with community radio in lockdown. I ended up doing the 70s and 80s party night on a Saturday night for 3 hours for 3 months because the other guy that was doing it just couldn't do it from his house. So just ended up filling for this other guy, which was interesting because my show was completely different to what people were expecting.
That you did that.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know what to talk about, so I just spoke about sort of anything that sort of pops into my head. I did a TV review. And I go through sort of everything that you shouldn't watch. Just sort of went through. Don't watch that. That's rubbish. Terrible. Don't watch that.
That's quality. Mate, that's amazing. No way you get away with that on commercial radio. The maddest thing that happened to me in radio was
you shouldn't get that. You shouldn't get away with that on community radio. But the thing with our show is that our boss doesn't listen Saturdays 3 till 6. So most of the things that we say,
it doesn't. Don't you get away with because he's not listening.
So
that's like my boss at Keir used to listen to everything. The news boss, John Pickford. He's a great guy, John Pickford. He's Dan Walker. Always sort of mentioned Dan Walker before. Dan Walker couldn't get a job in radio because he wouldn't work Sundays because he was a religion.
Right.
And John Pickford gave him his first ever job. And because he said to John, I don't work Sundays. And no one would give him a job because he wouldn't work Sundays, because he was doing sport as well. And John just said to him, well, you're going to have to work twice as hard on a Saturday. And gave him a job. And then from that, obviously he's probably one of the most famous presenters in the country. But no, one of my maddest things that happened to me reported, just reminded me, was when I started weekend reporting, I was just dead mad keen. And it was only me in on a weekend. I was the only reporter. And you have a newsreader there from 6 a.m. till 12. And then the rest of the day it would just be me. And what I'd always obviously do is go and find a story for the next day, or for Monday. I'd get a story ready for Monday morning. And I'd seen a story in the paper about the guy they called the Teflon Don. A guy called Aaron Coughlin. And he'd been done for 3 murders and found not guilty on all 3 of them. And then he'd been done for drugs and found not guilty for that as well. And I thought, right, I'm going to interview him. I'll try and find him, right? So in one of the, I was searching online, and they said he lived in Alderley Edge. And then I was searching, and I found someone put his road in there, and then there was a picture of his house, and it was a converted church. His house was massive, right? So I thought, fuck it, I must be able to find that. Do you know what I mean? If I go down there. So I went down there, and I probably wouldn't have done this if I'd have been around a little bit longer, but it was my first few months in the job. So fucking went down there, found his house. He wasn't in, so I left him a note. I'm from Keir Free, what, chat to you, and anyway, that night he rang me, and we were chatting on the phone for about half an hour, man. He was like, the police have stitched me up, and
last night.
yeah. It's honestly, and I was just fucking at home, having me tea, all right. And he's like, come round tomorrow then. So I went round to his house, and I walked in, and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were black.
What?
That's what he said. And then he went, and he said something like, if I'd known that, I would have filled the bath up, right? So I'm thinking, is he being racist or something? But I'm I don't know, but I'm not fucking, because he was nicknamed Teflon Don and all that, and Mr. Big and all this shit. I thought, I'm not going to start a row with him. I'm just going to get the fuck out of here if he's being a bit weird. And then he's like, you're in a rush. So I was like, no. He's like, good, well, you stop him for Sunday dinner. I'm like, right, okay, because his missus and his kids were there and that. And then he goes, basically what happened is he'd killed someone in his bathroom. That's what he was getting at. And the guy he killed was a black guy. But he'd killed this person with this person's own knife and gun. Because this guy called Aki come out of his house to kill him.
Purple Aki?
Not Purple Aki, that's a different guy. Aki's the guy, the Northwest Gym Pest, who squeezes muscles. This was a guy called, I think, Stephen Aki. But he basically come out of his house to speak to this other Aki about this number plate. And Aaron Coughlin was meant to be mediating between the two. The other guy hadn't turned up, and then Aki's tried to shoot him in his ensuite bathroom in one of his spare rooms. They've had a fight over with this gun and a tussle with a knife as well, because he's pulled a knife on him. And long and short of it is, the other guys ended up dead. So Aaron ended up going to, he got remanded and then got found not guilty of murder and released. But he took me upstairs to the bathroom where it all happened, and he's explaining, and he got me to reenact it. So he's like, right, you pretend you've got a gun.
Well, like Crime Watch.
Yeah. You stand there and pretending your right hand as a gun. So I'm stood in his bathroom, he's like, and the light's off, so he turns the light off. So I'm stood in his fucking bathroom, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, does everybody even know I'm here? And I was starting to get a little bit worried. But he sort of explained what happened, and it was just mental. He obviously got not guilty. The guy come round, tried to kill him, and he killed him in self-defense. But that was one of my fucking first weekends on the job.
Were you ever involved with the Century guys? Because when they first launched, I think it was John Myers, the station manager there, he intentionally got a taxi to break down outside Key Studios because they'd taken the United commentary rights off Key 103 and got a sign out that said, "You're not singing anymore," right outside the studios at Key.
No.
Because there's a great documentary on YouTube when Century FM launched originally. Do you remember Trouble at the Top, the TV series that followed like businesses? They put the cameras around there, and he's like this proper northern sort of MD, doesn't take any shit or anything. And he one of the first things he did was cancelled this poor woman. He had this like Sunday worship show, and he was getting no listeners, and like the phone rang when he was telling her off that he was basically sacking her, and the phone rang and he said, "Oh, it's Jesus on the phone. He doesn't listen either," or something terrible like that.
I remember, like, I'm a bit gutted because I missed like the best years of radio. I think like where you could get away with all sorts, where we had all the rights to sort of football and stuff like that. And I used to hear some of the stories and listen to some of the audio they had. I remember once like there was a clip they had of do you remember when Beckham got his boot kicked in his face?
Yeah.
And the
presenter, I think it 2003.
Yeah, and I think it was JK and Joel. I think it might have been who were the presenters.
Yeah, they did Hydra in the House. I seem to remember on.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did a few bits of TV.
Radio 1 as well for a small.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I think it was them. So they went down to the training ground with this big sign that said "Leave our Becks alone," like for Fergie, right? Just taking the piss. Do you know what I mean? Like we're gonna leave Beckham alone, you bully, and all this shit, right? Just for a photo op or whatever, or to do, record it. Like we're outside the training.
Alan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they've done this, right? And then Hugh Ferris, the poor guy, has gone to the press conference that day. He don't even know anything about this. And Fergie's found out that they've done this, seen his ass, right? And the thing with Fergie is, if he wanted to, like, if he was like really angry with you, he'd humiliate you. Like so many journalists told me so many different stories. He'd do like just little things that like embarrass you in front of everyone. So he's waited till everyone sat down, and then he's gone. He's pointed at like you and gone, "You're fucking banned for 3 months." And Hugh's like, "What?" And he's gone, "You can ask them two fucking jokers if you want to know why you're banned. Off you go." Right? So then the humiliating thing about that is you've been at press conferences. Like obviously you put your recorder or your Marantz or your fucking phone nowadays at the front. So Hugh's got to get up in front of everyone, walk to the front, pick his thing up, and then walk out. And everyone's sort of like just looking at him. And it's got to be like the longest walk ever because Fergie's just sat waiting for him to do it before he starts talking. Do you know what I mean? It's like so embarrassing. And like, what you can't argue, can you? You can't go, "Well, what the fuck are you talking about? And what's that got to do with me?"
Has your phone ever gone off in a press conference before? Because I remember Roy Keane got very angry at someone for that.
It's funny that because do you remember when Dom McGuinness's went off with Jose?
Yeah.
Because me and Dom used to swap because we both shared our audio. So if one of us was at United, because United and City did this fucking stupid thing. I don't know if they've still done it because I don't do presses anymore. But City used to do their press conferences at 1:30, which is the latest you can do a press conference by Premier League rules, I think. Or it might be 12:30, I forget. I think it was 1:30. But you had to have it finished by 2. That was like the rules on a Friday, sorry. Like, it couldn't be any later than that. And United's used to be at a different time. And then United switched theirs to the same time as City's. And because United and City is so far away, well, I think it was either the same time or half an hour difference. But because they're so far away, you can't get to both. It's impossible. Like, because the Etihad and Carrington are like a half an hour drive. So it just wasn't happening. So me and Dom used to swap and say, "Right, are you doing City today or are you doing United?" And we'd share the audio because there was sometimes he'd have to do United because he was doing a player afterwards, or there was other times he'd have to do City. And, I wasn't really that fucking bothered. And it wasn't like I had a special question to ask. Do you know what I mean? It was just like for 30 seconds at the end of a bulletin. But that day he went to United and it was his phone because what he told me what he'd done is he turned off his ringer, but WhatsApp had a different thing on it. So someone did a WhatsApp call to him, and he didn't because he hadn't turned his WhatsApp ringer off, so it's gone off, and fucking Jose's picked it up on it. But it's funny because everyone at work thought it might have been my phone or me, and my missus ringing me or something, and I was like, fucking would have been mint if it was because she'd have loved it because she loved Jose. But no, that was when Jose was like pretty funny and like dead happy all the time. Not dead happy, but easy to get along with. Like, believe it or not, because there was a time when he first came to United when he was actually pretty funny and likable. He just
You used to get the press conferences for Devils before. You used
Yeah,
to upload them.
Yeah, we used to get we could still we bought them off someone, and we can still do that. But I just think in terms of what it costs and what you get out of it, we fucked it off. Because I spoke to somebody the other day actually about it because I wanted the training ground stuff.
Yeah.
Because we used to do the bush cam where we'd commentate on it, but the price is fucking quite expensive. And well, it's not even that expensive.
It's like 20 seconds anyway, the same clip just on loop. That's what Sky Sports News do that because they don't have the rights to show. If it's like a player that United is signing that they're linked with, that they've got no rights from the league because it's like whatever, like the Portuguese league. They'll show like a video of him training with like Portugal from about 3 years ago for like 15 seconds on loop because that's all they have.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing. And like the only sort of thing with the press conferences, if you can make like funny videos and stuff out of it, it can be worth it. But I mean, we had a couple of videos that did all right a bit, but it's a waste of time most of the time because they just say.
I think Joe have milked that cow quite dry, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, the fake commentary stuff or
they're big fans of putting words together to make a song.
Oh right. Sorry, yeah, like the cassette boy type stuff. Right.
So it's very creative that for the 300th time.
Yeah, that's been dead. And like the answering the funny questions and the way you edit around the press conference to make it sound like you're asking different questions has been done to fucking death. We did that a couple of times and it did okay, but yeah, I think people have gotten to that now, and it's like,
well, it's certainly moved a long way on from commercial seal of the week and getting people on that were FIFA YouTubers to talk about Paul Scholes that had retired.
Mate, you got a good memory, you. Fucking hell. That's the only time I've ever had the conversation. That's the most diva thing I've ever done in my life, where I was like, I can't be on this. Like, I can't do videos with these people. Like, it's fucking embarrassing, and it's just making me look like a dickhead because I'm not pulling them up on it because I don't want to embarrass them, and I just don't want to be involved in that. And then like they were like, no, we're not going to go down that route anymore, thankfully. And funnily enough, YouTube and some fan channels have almost come full circle with those types of people who, you know, don't seem to know what fucking day it is and what.
Yeah, but you saw Guy Neville last night on Monday Night Football referenced Arsenal Fan TV about 6 times when he was talking about Carragher. He was like, oh, didn't realise this was Arsenal Fan TV. And then he kept on saying it as if it was like, oh, I'll just give them all the attention they want, Gary, it's fine.
Well, he took them to another level when he did that. He did. It gave him so much credibility that, you know, they were able to sort of take it up a notch. And whether he I don't think he intended to do that, but that's what it did. And you know, my thoughts on Arsenal's Fan TV are fucking. I don't really watch them. I used to watch them, but that's just not what I'm about. Because people that watch Arsenal Fan TV watch Arsenal Fan TV because Arsenal lose. That's where, you know, it's not Arsenal fans.
They're not known for their commentary or opinions. They're just known for memes, and that's it.
Those sort of 10-second meltdowns. Clips. It's meltdowns, and it's, you know, it's people fucking mentally ill people.
On DC's Willie.
Mate, that's tied chokes on DC's Willie. It's all about. God rest him, poor Claude. But that is, and what made me laugh about that is, don't read that. What are you reading that for? It's a super chat. You got to, haven't you? No. You don't just read it out. Someone's paying $3.99 to say this. You don't have to read it out. Bless him. And when they're sat there, he's eating his chips and everything, his Christmas hat. That is just that is so good. It's like the Andy Tate fucking fan cam. It's just so, everything about it is just so spot on. Have you seen them? We need to wrap up soon. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. But have you seen the Andy Tate TikTok thing?
I've seen the I think so. I remember the Andy Tate soundboard that made a lot of money.
No, yeah, I don't think he fucking got anything out of it. There's a thing on TikTok now where something that you can't get out of your head, I think it is whatever, and it's these like American girls, just randomers, who were playing the Andy Tate famous, you know, fucking biggest fool in Manchester fan cam. And miming along to it. But it's just so random because you just got these fucking girls sat in America who like obviously don't know who fucking Andy Tate is. They probably don't even know who Fergie is, old boys. And they're just sort of going, your best mates with Fergie, got the job on a technicality, we're a legend who recommended you. You are nothing, you are a fool and all the rest of it. I don't need to go on. But it's fucking it is like hilarious.
It's funny you say that quickly because because I've interviewed some reasonably big names, sort of FA Cup winning managers, sort of some interesting people, and always every time, like you, it's like, oh yeah, I've done a podcast with Andy Tate. Well, you've met Andy Tate. What's he like? And it's like, he's just a guy that works in home bargains.
Yeah, and it's mad because like I had it when I used to do the buses with Kate. Have you ever interviewed Andy Tate? And it'd be like, yeah, like have you ever interviewed anyone famous? And I'd be like, yeah, the Prime Minister, or Roberto Mancini, or Wayne Rooney, or Ryan Giggs, or whatever. Have you ever interviewed Andy Tate? But I think it's not as big as it is now. But there was a time with Andy where about 2013, 14, 2014, he was, and this sounds melodramatic, but I'm not exaggerating. He was for a bit of time, one of the most famous people in the country for a bit.
He had to disappear from the channel.
Yeah, I know that sounds ridiculous, but he was getting mobbed, and he never the thing with Andy as well is he's a great guy and he's dead innocent. He never really took advantage of it.
Andy lost his job for it as well.
Yeah, and he was getting hounded. Talk Sport sent someone around to his house, and people were making apps and stuff that he had nothing to do with. He didn't know about it, and then he did a few adverts and stuff, but he probably, had he been a bit more sort of savvy, had he been even if I know this sounds daft, but the best thing he could have probably done then was got himself an agent. Yeah. And I know people go, Andy Tate's a fucking guy who works in Old. Trust me, mate, the guy was fucking absolutely everyone was watching those videos.
He's not even on Twitter either.
No, he's not. He was. He's not. He's on Instagram. But everyone was chatting about him. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone wanted to meet him. He could have made himself enough money to buy a house or something. And I think he didn't really make anything out of it because it was never his intention.
He told me he went on a holiday and that was it.
That's what I mean, mate. On holiday, and if he'd have wanted or planned to make a name or become famous or to become a brand, he would have done, but he didn't. He literally stood next to Macca for months before he ever did a fan cam. He just used to watch the fan cams. And that night, if you watch the famous fan cam, I think there's no one else there. I think it's the end of the night, and Macca says, "Do you want to have a go? You're always here." And he does, and then he did a few more, and I think it was Vorstronino, whatever his name is, who did a few memes out of it, and he just fucking went uber viral, where it was millions. Even now on Paddock and what was Devils, it's the most watched video. I think it's the April Fool's fan cam's on 3 million views or something stupid. Mad. It is mad. It's mad just from some guy from East Manchester.
That's the thing. Fan cams are just like 21st century vox pops, basically, as well. They're nothing new,
It's going to be interesting, actually, to see what happens when we're back in the stadium. Because I'm wondering whether there's still an appetite for him. I mean, we'll still do him. But
I think Redmen TV have quit completely because they don't want that to be their sort of USP anymore. They want it to be more sort of analysis type content.
Have they events on the ad? Because this is the thing, because I don't know whether it's even going to be fucking worth it, if I'm being honest. We'll see. Like I say, we'll still do it. The whole idea with fan cams is, though, it's just fans give anyone a chance. And I think there's a danger of it stopping becoming that and it becoming just the same old faces, because people either don't want to fucking do it who aren't, on the channel already, or there's just not the appetite for it.
I mean, to be honest, I'd never really do them. To be honest, if I'm at United, I won't do it because A, I know the shit I'll get for it from people in the street, and B, if I've just come straight out of a match, the last thing I want to do is give my opinion because it's probably exaggerated and not what I think in 4 hours' time if we've got B.
I was always I used to do it. I used to do it. If I saw Macca and Chris, I used to film him.
Yeah,
I'd do him if I was there early, because sometimes I'd leave the game when it finished, but sometimes I'd get there and there'd be no one there, or they hadn't done any yet, and they'd be like, "Jay, do you want to just jump on and do one with us? Just get the ball rolling," sort of thing. And I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't mind doing that." I did a couple of aways as well. I did I did a bit of presenting on aways before I was there full time, but I don't know, man. I think I'm just a bit wary, and there's been a bit of a backlash as well, and it's like there could be neither. I think we'll give it a go and we'll see what happens.
Chris gave me my first gig on Full Time Devils as it was then, because I remember emailing him, and he said his response was, "What are you doing this afternoon at 2 p.m. or whatever?" And I said nothing. And he said, "Wrong. You're on the Reading preview," and that was it.
That's
Reading FA Cup. I think it was like 2016. And first thing I did as soon as I joined the call was took the piss out of Gaz for wearing a fake Sharp View Cam Umbro shirt, and he said, "Who the fuck are you?"
Mad that, because my first game was a Reading game as well. Mine was the post-match Reading game, and Macca's was the same game, but his was the preview. So he was a few days before me. But anything that takes piss out of Gaz is always good fun.
You got bullied on that channel.
Him and Alson, it was so awkward sometimes because I like Gaz. He's harmless and he's a nice guy. He's my mate and that. But Steve'd be so fucking argumentative with him. Like me and Steve can argue, but there's an element of we'll agree on a lot of things, and there's times when you're like, all right, yeah, fair enough, or whatever. But with him, it's like Gaz would say, good morning. He's like, well, it's not good, is it? Do you know what I mean? It'd just be like that sort of fucking thing.
There's a reason he's not on Talking Balls. He's the only one out of all the Stretford Paddock people.
Oh, mate. Well, I want to bring Gaz back to the fold, to be fair. I've been chatting to him about coming back on the channel because he's not been on it since we've relaunched. And like I say, me, Gaz, and there's not really, a real dislike between him and Howson. They're not particularly close, but they don't dislike each other. I just, I think it's one of those things where they just used to argue a lot on fucking.
Well, people love to make stuff up as well in the comments as well and everything, as if it's some sort of massive thing that he's left and he hates everyone for taking his BBC job. It's not.
Like, literally, me and Joe are on Talking Balls every fucking week. I was on it on Friday. Do you know what I mean? No, not Friday. I'm talking rubbish. I'm talking balls. I was on it on last night. I think I did it.
And you presented it as well.
Yeah, I presented it covering for Gaz because Gaz recommended me. So, like, if Gaz didn't want me doing it, I wouldn't be doing it. Scotty's done it as well, and I know he's not as much part of that thing, but we all we all get on, and I think it was fucking nonsense. But we want to bring Gaz back to Paddock. We are going to get him on hopefully next week. Funnily enough, because I spoke to him.
Shoe incident was fun.
What?
The shoe incident with remember the guy where he was crying, the old man, and the thing.
Don't mate. We lost so many subscribers because of that. Fucking hell, mate. And it was like people got the complete wrong end of the fucking stick and thought we were taking the piss out of the old geezer. Which, and I'm not being funny, we weren't, but it was ridiculous that he was crying, by the way. I don't care what anyone says. It was a fucking nonsense. But we were taking the piss out of Peaky Pundit, who was basically goading this guy into crying. Like, come on, get it, let it all out. Come on, son. So we did the joke of obviously him standing on his foot. And then, like, I thought it was pretty fun, actually, to be fair, when Gaz and Nick suggested it. And I was like, yeah, I like that. And then, mate, the backlash from that was like, you're taking the piss out of it all. Even Andy rang me, Andy Tate. I didn't like that, taking the piss out of the old geezer. And I'm like, well, no one's taking the piss out of him. Have you actually watched this? And it was like, fucking, the comments were horrendous. And it was just people fucking, like, hated it. And then I think Gaz could wind people up quite easily as well. There was like a thing where he was an easy target. If you didn't like what we did, he was the easy one to get at. Do you know what I mean?
You are the worst fan channel ever.
Yeah. And it was just like, you've forgotten the fans. You've forgotten the people that have put you where you are today.
Dead channel. Okay.
Yeah. And it was just like, fucking hell, man.
Can't be dead if you're still being employed to work for them, can it?
Mate, it was, we lost fucking thousands, about 3,000 subs. And then we did the other one with the tweet thing that he did. Again, that lost us about fucking... Twarman cost us about 5,000 subs in 2 weeks.
And he got no views as well.
I know. And it took all day to edit. It was like, it was a fucking nightmare. And I wouldn't mind, they'd stop doing it. And I brought it back and they're like, yeah, bring it back. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, yeah, we'll do that. It's something different. And at first it was all right. Do you know what I mean? I was like, okay, the views aren't great, but we can build an audience. And then within a fortnight, it fucking cost us about 5,000 subs and everyone fucking wanted to kill us. And I was just like, right, that's the end of that. He did it actually. He did it on All for United.
Yeah,
but
that very it's such a different channel that to every other one, isn't it? That almost has a very similar logo to another fan channel that used to exist as well.
I'm not saying anything to about that. Yeah, a few people have pointed out, but I know some of the people that are on there. Karthik's on there, and
Karthik's
Natalie's on there as well. She's good stuff, Natalie. So more power to them. But yeah, he took that on there, and I don't know. I think he did it a couple of times, but he fucked it off in the end. So yeah, we'll try and get him on back on Paddock where he belongs. Just the 1 hour and 20 minutes for me and James Youngs tonight. Reminiscing about
the bloody Patreon.
Let's see what happens when you just leave me and you to chat about radio. We could have gone for another fucking hour and 20 minutes, and then YouTube as well. Fucking hell, mate, going down the right rabbit hole.
Well, the one for radio presenters, you always want to start a conversation. Is you just make something up about what Bauer and Global have done now. Something stupid, like you don't know what they've done now. They've nationalised all the canteens at Leicester Square. They've ruined it, and it's like, they've ruined the radio industry. I can't believe
the worst one was at Bauer was when what's her name? Who's that girl that's in
Fleur East?
No. That was the longest interview of my life. She's a lovely girl, but it was just one of those. It was very monosyllabic. I don't think she wants to be there, to be fair to her. She's famous Australian woman who was in Pitch Perfect and what's her name?
I haven't seen Pitch Perfect.
Is it Pitch Perfect? Right. Sorry, mate.
I don't know who you're talking. I don't know who you're on about.
Right. She's a bigger girl, but she's got like blonde hair. Right. Hang on a minute. I'm going to find her right now. Rebel Wilson. That's it. Right. She sued Bauer and won. Oh. But not because of us, because of like the old magazines as well. And one of the magazines had written something about her that was wrong. And she sued, and it was like the main story in like entertainment. And we couldn't fucking run it because it was like Rebel Wilson had sued us. Hey. So it was just like we just ignored it.
Like, well, they're really unpopular in South Wales because Greatest Hits Radio that launched this year. Because they do this great thing where they sort of take over loads of local stations and make loads of people redundant, so they can have one big, nice capitalist station at the top with Amanda Holden doing breakfast, which is what everyone wants. But they took over a station in South Wales and basically kept it so it was like one drive time show, and that was basically it. So everyone else basically got made redundant. So they're not necessarily very popular.
That's their new MO. That it's all been sort of changed, and I've not been keeping up to speed, but with Ofcom and stuff, and it's all sort of changed.
What's happened with Key as well? Is it Hits Radio now?
Hits Radio, yeah.
Station.
And I think
everything that it stood for.
Everything. I mean, the only thing that you keep is news. I think that's the one thing with Ofcom that you have to have local news.
And it used to be Breakfast and Drive as well, but now that's just one show, I think now, because Heart always used to have sort of a local drive time show and a local breakfast show, but now that's just Drive as well now. So
it's dead local radio, mate. It's hard work. It's gone. It's a shame because, but
that means community radio is good because around our way, you've got, there used to be Red Dragon, which was the main sort of local commercial station. That got bought by Global, as did Real. So you've got Capital, Heart, who are, national stations. And then for Cardiff, which is a capital city, there's no local BBC station. There's only BBC Wales. You've got Radio Cardiff, which is a community station. And then you've got us, which is just outside in Barry, which is Bro. And then that's it.
It's mad, isn't it? It's like, it's such a shame. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you think of what used to be, and now that is like, for so many of them just being eaten up. It's like with the local papers, you just get like the MEN or whatever that eats up the fucking Rochdale Times and
Trinity Mirror.
Yeah, Trinity Mirror, yeah. But all like little local papers.
Is it Reach PLC as well?
Yes.
Mirror,
yeah, you're right. And they all just get eaten up, don't they? And then become the big local paper, if you can call it that. So yeah, that's just what's happening with radio. But like you say, it's still community radio, there's still options, and there's still podcasts as well. Like this one, James. It's been great chatting to you, mate. We'll have to do this again in a couple of days, whether Scott is back or not. Have you got any? Have you not got anything to plug? Have you? Do you do?
If you could subscribe to United We Stand, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
because I write for them as well. So,
do you know what? That's a great gig. That there's a lot of people. I remember me and Darren Richmond met up one day, and Andy Mitten was there, and he's saying to me, Darren was saying to me, he said, "That's Andy Mitten, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I always wanted to write for United We Stand, and I sent him some work once, and he never got back to me."
Well, I did a couple of times, and he didn't respond. And then eventually, I sent him an article that actually never got published as well. But then, long story short, I had a phone conversation with him and sent back another article, and he eventually published it and said, keep on sending stuff. So
good stuff, mate. Good stuff. One of the longest serving fanzines out there.
And I get paid for it as well, which is not important, obviously. But
paid gig from Andy Mitten. Doing well there, man. He gave me my first ever job. It wasn't fucking writing for him, no. It was flogging a magazine outside Old Trafford in the early 90s. But yeah, it's all good. So make sure you subscribing to United We Stand. That's been Youngie. I've been Motty, and we'll be back soon with another one. Hopefully with David Scott if he's back, but if not, we'll be here this weekend to maybe go over the football or something like that.
We'll just talk shit like we have.
We'll just talk shit for an hour and a half. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe.